Welcome back to Klepper's Corner. Today in history. Today we take a journey through one of those dates where history didn't just move forward. It argued loudly, broke something expensive, invented a government, panicked about religion, redrew maps, built cities shaped like airplanes, discovered alien worlds, and even managed to send a few humans into space after they were technically done using their bodies. April 21st is proof that humanity has always been extremely confident while having absolutely no idea what it is doing. Empires rise, republics collapse, leaders panic, soldiers improvise, and somewhere in the background, someone is always trying to brand something as modern, even though it will definitely look ridiculous in about 50 years. Today's story is about power, belief, innovation, and the recurring human tradition of dramatically overreacting to new situations while insisting we are completely in control. Segment 1, and founding myths and republic collapse. Our journey begins in 753 BC with the founding of Rome, a civilization whose origin story reads like the world's least effective family counseling session. According to legend, twin brothers Romulus and Remus argued over where to build their city, which escalated from a zoning disagreement into literal fratricide. Romulus killed Remus and named the city after himself, establishing Rome's first tradition of solving political disputes through extremely decisive leadership and extremely poor conflict resolution skills. Rome would go on to build one of the most sophisticated legal systems in human history, proving that societies can absolutely create brilliant rules after beginning with absolutely no rules at all. Fast forward to 43 BC, and Rome again demonstrates its talent for dramatic governance transitions at the Battle of Mutina. After Julius Caesar's assassination, the Senate attempted to stop Mark Antony, only to accidentally empower Octavian, who would later become Augustus, the first Roman emperor. The Senate essentially solved one dictatorship problem by creating a newer, more efficient dictatorship problem, which is historically similar to replacing one confusing streaming service with 3 more confusing streaming services. Rome reminds us that political systems rarely collapse in one dramatic moment. They slowly transition from ideals into technicalities, until suddenly someone is wearing a crown and insisting it is temporary. Segment 2, and law, debt, and religious panic. By the year 900, the Laguna copperplate inscription reveals that sophisticated legal systems existed in Southeast Asia long before Europeans arrived claiming to introduce paperwork. This document legally cleared a family debt using standardized weights of gold, proving medieval societies already understood contracts, accounting, and the emotional relief of not owing someone money. The document's survival also reminds us that history often depends on ordinary people not throwing things away, which is the opposite of my email inbox strategy. Meanwhile, in 1506 Lisbon, fear and religious hysteria produced a massacre targeting converted Jews after a supposed miracle sighting sparked suspicion and violence. A congregation praying for relief from plague became a mob convinced divine light required human blame, demonstrating how quickly fear can override reason when society is already stressed. The tragedy exposes a recurring pattern. When people feel powerless, they often look for someone nearby to hold responsible, which, unfortunately, has been one of humanity's most consistent traditions. If history teaches us anything, it is that certainty combined with panic rarely produces calm decision-making. Segment 3, and power transitions and gunpowder reality checks. In 1509, Henry VII of England died quietly while his advisors delayed announcing the news, because even monarchies understand the importance of controlling the narrative. His son, Henry VIII, would become famous for reshaping religion, largely because divorce proved inconvenient, demonstrating that institutional transformation sometimes begins with personal frustration. Meanwhile, in 1526, Babur defeated a vastly larger army at the First Battle of Panipat, using gunpowder artillery and tactical innovation. His opponent relied heavily on war elephants, which were historically considered intimidating, until cannons introduced the groundbreaking revelation that loud explosions cause animals to reconsider their career choices. The battle launched the Mughal Empire and demonstrated that technological disruption often arrives faster than cultural expectations can adapt. The lesson of Panipat is simple. Never assume the biggest army automatically wins when the smaller army has recently discovered physics. Segment 4, and new capitals and political reinvention. In 1782, King Rama I founded Bangkok, launching the Chakri dynasty that still reigns today. Moving the capital across a river for defensive purposes may sound practical, but the surrounding legends about curses and foundation rituals suggest even strategic decisions benefit from a little supernatural reassurance. Nations, much like homeowners, prefer not to think their foundation might be haunted. Just 7 years later, in 1789, John Adams became the first Vice President of the United States and immediately suggested giving the president a royal-sounding title, proving revolutions may change governments, but not necessarily people's comfort with fancy job descriptions. Adams helped define the vice presidency as an essential constitutional role that continues to carry the important responsibility of being ready just in case something extremely unexpected happens. The early United States was still figuring out how formal to appear, balancing revolutionary humility with a strong temptation to sound impressive in European letters. Segment 5, and revolution, myth, and the end of romantic war. In 1836, the Battle of San Jacinto lasted only 18 minutes, but secured Texas independence, proving geopolitical transformation can occur faster than most people finish assembling furniture. Sam Houston's forces surprised Mexican troops during an afternoon rest, a reminder that strategic timing has always been extremely important, particularly when your opponent assumes nobody attacks between lunch and a nap. The battle reshaped North America and eventually contributed to the Mexican-American War, illustrating how regional conflicts often expand into continental consequences. In 1918, Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron, was shot down after achieving 80 aerial victories, marking the fading myth of noble aerial duels. Modern evidence suggests the famous pilot was likely killed by ground fire, demonstrating that even history's most elite figures can be undone by someone operating far outside the spotlight. War was becoming industrial, technological, and increasingly indifferent to individual heroics, signaling the transition from romantic storytelling to modern, mechanized reality. Segment 6, and modern war, space, and the expanding universe. In 1945, Soviet artillery began striking central Berlin, signaling the final collapse of Nazi Germany and the end of World War II in Europe. Inside the Führer bunker, Adolf Hitler reportedly demanded military responses that no longer existed, illustrating how authoritarian systems often deteriorate into echo chambers incapable of processing reality. The fall of Berlin reshaped global power structures and set the stage for the Cold War, demonstrating how the end of one conflict often plants the seeds of the next geopolitical tension. In 1960, Brazil inaugurated Brasilia, a futuristic capital built in just 41 months, symbolizing modernization while conveniently placing the government far from coastal political unrest. Brasilia's airplane-shaped design reflected optimism about technology, progress, and the belief that architecture could reshape society. In 1992, astronomers confirmed the first exoplanets, proving our solar system is not unique and expanding humanity's understanding of the universe dramatically. Then, in 1997, the ashes of Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry were launched into space, symbolically merging science fiction imagination with real technological capability. Humanity has always sought meaning in the stars, but launching cremated remains into orbit suggests we are increasingly determined to leave reviews everywhere we go. In conclusion, April 21st demonstrates that history rarely unfolds neatly or predictably. Empires are founded through conflict. Governments evolve through improvisation. Scientific discoveries reshape identity, and cultural symbols continue influencing how societies imagine the future. Across centuries, humanity repeatedly confronts uncertainty with creativity, ambition, and occasionally deeply questionable judgment. The constant thread connecting these moments is the willingness to experiment with power, belief, and possibility. History reminds us that progress is rarely calm, often contradictory, and frequently driven by individuals convinced they are absolutely right at precisely the moment they are most improvisational.